When you meet a Gemini, you might think you've got them figured out. They can be talkative, charming, and endlessly entertaining. They have a lighthearted vibe that makes it seem like they live in the present moment and never take things too seriously. But if you pay closer attention, you'll notice there's more going on beneath that easy smile. This is not just a sign of quick wit and adaptability. It's also a sign of sharp memory, emotional calculation, and a complex inner world that most people never fully see. This video will take you deep into that hidden side of a Gemini, breaking down each key trait described in detail. Keep watching so you'll understand why they act the way they do, how they process experiences, and why you should never underestimate what's going on in their mind. You might think a disagreement with a Gemini ends the moment you shake hands or share a laugh again, but in reality, their mind is like a vault. Every interaction, good or bad, is filed away with surprising precision. They may appear to let things go quickly, smiling and cracking jokes like nothing happened, but that doesn't mean they've erased the memory. If you once spoke to them in a way that felt disrespectful, or if you broke a promise, it doesn't disappear from their mental record. They just choose not to confront you directly. Instead, they store that memory in a quiet corner of their mind, waiting for the right moment to bring it up, sometimes not even in words, but in subtle actions or passing comments that carry more meaning than they seem to. This ability to remember without openly fighting about it is part of their strength. They prefer to avoid unnecessary drama, but they're not naive. They see, they record, and they wait. If you ever find yourself wondering why a Gemini made a slightly pointed joke at your expense weeks after an event, you're likely seeing their memory in action. When you interact with a Gemini, understand that every word matters. They might forgive, but they don't forget. The best way to stay in their good graces is to treat them with consistent respect, because the little moments you think they won't remember are often the ones they store the longest. A Gemini's mind operates on two levels: what they allow you to see and what they're really thinking. On the surface, they may appear casual, laid back, and even dismissive about certain things. They might say, "I don't care," in a tone that makes you believe they truly mean it. But behind that mask, they're processing everything. When a Gemini says they don't care, what they often mean is, "I've made a mental note, and I'm keeping it for later." This later could come in the form of an unexpectedly sharp remark, a cleverly worded social media post, or a sudden shift in their behavior toward you. They excel at delivering subtle reminders that they remember what you did. You might hear it in a joke that has a double meaning, light enough to pass off as humor, but heavy enough to make you pause. You might feel it when they compare you to someone else in a way that stings, and you might notice it in a slight drop in warmth that makes you question if something has changed. If you're dealing with a Gemini, you need to understand that their version of a game isn't about open confrontation. It's about positioning themselves so they always have the mental advantage. They know that staying calm while keeping track of every detail gives them power in a way emotional outbursts never could. One of the biggest misconceptions about Geminis is that they don't take things seriously, or that they simply brush off hurtful experiences. The truth is that they feel deeply, but they rarely show it in raw form. Their cheerful or easygoing exterior often hides an ocean of emotions that they keep locked away from most people. Showing vulnerability can feel dangerous to a Gemini. In their mind, revealing too much is like handing someone a key to their inner castle, and they're very careful about who gets that access. So when they experience pain, they follow a quiet but deliberate process. First comes distraction. They throw themselves into conversations, projects, hobbies, or even humor to avoid dwelling on the hurt. Then comes silent analysis. They replay events in their head, breaking down every word and every gesture to fully understand what happened and why. Finally, they build the invisible wall. This wall isn't obvious at first. It's not a slammed door or an abrupt disappearance. It's a gradual shift, a subtle reduction in openness, until one day you realize you no longer feel as close to them as you once did. If you've ever felt like a Gemini suddenly became more guarded with you for no apparent reason, it's likely because you hurt them at some point and they decided to protect themselves. They won't always tell you directly, but the distance will speak for itself. When you hurt a Gemini, you activate what could be called their reflection mode. They don't usually respond with instant revenge or angry confrontation. Instead, they adopt the exact tone and energy you've given them, and they do it so seamlessly that it feels like a natural shift in their personality. If you were cold toward them, expect them to become colder. If you spoke sharply, prepare to hear sharp sarcasm in return. If you ignore them, they might suddenly seem too busy for you. This mirroring is not accidental. It's their way of showing you what your behavior feels like from their perspective. The beauty or danger of this approach is that it doesn't feel forced. A Gemini can adjust their energy so naturally that you might not even realize you're being mirrored at first. But over time, the change becomes undeniable. You start to see a version of yourself reflected back at you, and it can be both uncomfortable and eye-opening. This mirroring serves two purposes. It protects the Gemini from further hurt, and it forces you to confront your own actions. When you deal with a Gemini, remember that they are not passive observers. They adapt, they reflect, and they make sure you experience the energy you give them, whether that energy is warm and kind or cold and cutting. Perhaps one of the most unsettling traits a Gemini can display is their ability to create emotional distance. When a Gemini decides to step back, they do it with such quiet precision that you may not even realize it's happening until the connection is already gone. They don't slam doors or make dramatic exits. Instead, they keep things polite and civil, but the warmth that once defined your interactions begins to fade. Conversations become shorter, smiles less frequent, and their enthusiasm for your presence noticeably declines. This distance is often more painful than any direct confrontation because it doesn't come with an explanation. You're left wondering what went wrong, replaying past interactions to find the moment things started to shift. Meanwhile, the Gemini continues living their life, seemingly unaffected, as though the closeness you once shared was just a chapter they've quietly closed. Their ability to detach comes from their mental agility. They can compartmentalize their emotions, separating what they feel from what they choose to show. If they decide the connection is no longer worth their energy, they don't look back. When you experience this emotional distance from a Gemini, it's usually a sign that something significant has happened, something they may have decided not to tell you about. By the time you notice the gap, they've already accepted the change, and winning back their trust can be an uphill battle. One of the most intriguing aspects of a Gemini's personality is their relationship with karma. Unlike some people who actively plot revenge, Geminis often prefer to let time and the universe do the work for them. They have an almost instinctive belief that people eventually face the consequences of their actions. When you wrong a Gemini, they may not come after you directly. Instead, they step back, knowing that life has a way of evening the scales. They trust that the loss of their presence, combined with the natural flow of events, will deliver a far more lasting lesson than any immediate retaliation could. The effects of this kind of karmic justice are often subtle but powerful. You might notice shifts in your social life, missed opportunities, or a lingering sense that something is missing. One day, you'll realize that the easy connection, stimulating conversations, and unique bond you shared with that Gemini are gone, and that void can be surprisingly difficult to fill. By the time you understand what you've lost, the Gemini has usually moved on. They rarely dwell on the past once they've decided to close the door. This ability to let go while trusting karma to handle the rest makes them both mysterious and formidable. Geminis are often represented by the symbol of the twins, and this duality is more than just a zodiac cliché. It's a reflection of their ability to balance openness with privacy, humor with seriousness, and emotional sensitivity with mental resilience. They can be playful and deep, forgiving and calculating, connected and detached, all depending on the situation. This doesn't mean they're inconsistent. It means they're adaptable. They respond to the energy they receive, adjusting their approach to protect themselves while maintaining their dignity. If you see only one side of a Gemini, it's because that's the side they've chosen to show you. The other side is always there, quietly observing, remembering, and waiting for the right moments to reveal itself. Dealing with a Gemini is like reading a book that changes each time you open it. Just when you think you understand them, they reveal a new layer of complexity. They are thinkers, observers, and strategists, capable of feeling deeply while keeping their emotions under tight control. If you treat them with respect, honesty, and appreciation, you'll find a loyal and fascinating companion. But if you cross them or underestimate their depth, you'll encounter their other side, the one that remembers, reflects, distances, and ultimately moves on without looking back. Understanding these traits doesn't just help you navigate relationships with Geminis. It also teaches you about the power of subtlety, patience, and emotional intelligence. They remind you that strength doesn't always come from confrontation, and that sometimes the most lasting impact comes from simply stepping away and letting time do the rest. To discover what other secrets astrology has in store for you, click the link in the description for your free personalized reading. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Share your thoughts on this video in the comments section below. And until we meet again, may the stars guide your path to enlightenment. Thanks for watching.